The vow. It's a 4-part sermon series that we're going to go over throughout the month of February. And trust me, I believe that it will bless your life. Next week is going to be awesome. Every week is just going to get better and better and better. But next week we're talking about the vow of pursuit. How to continue to go after your spouse even after you've been 10 years married. Right? Because it happens when you're dating. When you're dating, you call her all the time, and you want to see her all the time. You want to see him, and then 10 years later, it's like, oh my gosh. And you don't do the things that you used to do. You forget you forget about courtship. You forget all those things. You forget about dates. You forget about dating. You don't make that as a priority in your life. So we're going to be talking about how to keep going after your spouse, even after you are married. Because if you don't, somebody else will. If you don't, Panchito at work, he's ready. Panchito's ready. He's ready. Right? He's ready in the lunchroom, in the break room. Hey, mija, ¿por qué tan sad? Yeah, he's ready. So if you don't pursue your spouse, somebody else will. Then the third week, we're going to be talking about the vow of partnership. This is a game changer right here. When you do things together for the Lord, and when you learn to really be one in Christ, this is a game changer. And then week 4, the vow of purity. Today, we will be talking about the vow of priority. So we mean priority. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, man, but there's so many marriages that are hurting, that are going through so many different storms and so many different tough seasons in their lives. There's so many different marriages, man, all over the place. And I believe, right, according to the scripture, that struggling was not God's design for our marriages. Right? Hey, how you doing? Struggling, man. I don't believe that's God's design for marriage. Not biblically. Right? It was not God's design for you to go from struggle to struggle to struggle to struggle through struggle. God's plan for your marriage is for a marriage that will have life and life in abundance. It's for a healthy marriage. Anybody can be married for 50 years. But is it healthy? Is it healthy? Is it honoring God? So that's what we're going to be talking about for the next few weeks. And today we're going to focus on priorities. And we really want to invest in you through the next 4 weeks and through the sermon series. We want to invest in those who are married, those who are about to get married, those who were married and are not married anymore, and those who, by the grace of God, one day will be married. And all the single people say, man, single people don't want to get married. They're like, nah, we're straight, man. We see all of y'all. Nah, we don't want that. But we want to make sure that you have healthy relationships and marriages. Because if we have healthy marriages, we will have healthy families. We have healthy families, we will have a healthy church, and a healthy community, and a healthy city. Right? But everything starts in the marriage. Now, real quick, this is for the girls. This is just for the girls. Girls, raise your hand if one day you fantasize with having the perfect wedding, with the perfect God, right? Living in the perfect house. As a matter of fact, you even named your children before you got married. Raise your hand real quick. Okay, we got a couple. All right. Man, when you were in middle school, don't lie. Don't lie, you were in middle school. You would even put his last name after your name. Like Brenda Johnson. I'm sorry. Right? You're like, and my kids would be Shaquan, Andre. You'll start naming. Because, right, you fantasize, right? Girls are more about that. They're doing more detail, okay? And he's gonna look like this, he's gonna be so perfect, and we're gonna live in this perfect house and have this perfect things, right? Now, guys, raise your hand if all you ever dreamed of was getting married and have sex twice a day. Might too. Okay. They're real. That's guys. That's guys. You're like, no, man, that's just, that was guys. That was guys. And everybody has a different perspective and different expectations, right? And how many of you are still dreaming until this day to have that perfect marriage? Anybody? We want that perfect marriage. I mean, obviously, maybe we're not going to have it's interesting how our expectations of what marriage should be is very different from what it actually is. My Diana, those who are married say? Because you have these expectations of what it's going to be. And then all of a sudden, right, my wife, when she saw me, she's like, this guy, he's so perfect. He's right. And then she marries me and she's like, who is this devil? I have all these expectations and all these things and all these things I wanted her to do it. And I wanted the clothes in a certain way and certain colors in one part. And then right in, I was just like, okay, hey, this goes right here. And this has to be right here. And this has to be hung right here. All the blacks are right here. And then all the whites and then all the yellows and then, right? And it's, yeah, the girls are like, boy, you better get out of here. My wife didn't know I was like that. So there was different expectations. So we get it. There's different expectations. And it's interesting how expectations of a marriage should be is very different from what it really is. The statistics show that 50% of marriages don't make it. Isn't that crazy? 50% of marriages, they don't make it. They get a divorce. Out of every 2 couples that get married, 1 gets a divorce. Think about it. That's horrifying, man. That is bad. That is tough. That is tough because it's happening. And a lot of the times people used to think, well, that's people that don't come to church. No. It's happening inside of the church. It's the same numbers. Same numbers. Statistics will show you that 50% of marriages don't make it. And most of them get divorced within the first 2 years. They don't last anymore. It's like a Kardashian wedding. But think about it. In any other area of your life, if there was something important that meant a lot to you, and if there was a 50% chance that you would lose it, don't you think you would seriously approach that? Right? Let's say something very important to you, You would be very dramatic in the preparation to save whatever you think you were going to lose. Let's say, for example, you have kids. And if they will tell you, hey man, there's a 50% chance, right, throughout the rest of the year, that your children could be kidnapped in between the time they get in the bus and they get to their classroom, what will you do? You would take some drastic measures, wouldn't you? Man, I would drive them. First, I would buy a gun. I would drive them to school. I would make sure that they would get in their classroom and I would sit with them. I don't want my kids to, right? I'm that serious about my children. If there was a 50% chance, right, that would happen, you would be very dramatic and very drastic about that. Let's say there was a 50% chance that when you go and get the mail tomorrow, and you go outside of your home, you get attacked by a bear. Which, by the way, there's coyotes now here in Elgin, so you better be careful. There was one behind our house. What would you do? You'd probably grab a knife, probably grab a gun. The most experienced ladies, you'd probably grab a chancla. Right? You probably got a chancla and because you will be prepared. You will be prepared. You wouldn't want nothing to happen to you if there was a 50% chance. Now, why aren't we doing it with our marriages? Why are we waiting until something is wrong to do something about it? That's why if we pay attention to this, I believe that it's going to bless your life and it's going to set you up for success. If you ask me, man, is it possible to have a God-honoring marriage? Not perfect, but God-honoring. I would say 100%. Yes, it's not easy. It'll take time. But it is possible. It is possible. It's not likely if you follow the path that you have been following throughout this whole time. You need to have certain standards, you need to have certain goals, you need to have certain things in place, certain foundations so that you can have a godly and God-honoring marriage. That's what we want to talk about, relationships, to give you the right direction. And today is about the priorities and how to keep them in the proper place in our relationship. Now, I want to share with you a very common belief in our world today, and it's being taught through like all the princesses from Disney and the movies and the love stories, right? And that common idea is that you have to find, say with me, the one. It's like, oh my gosh, when you find the one, everything is going to change. You know, and the one is that one that when you see him, you get butterflies, right? Now you see him, you want to throw up after 10 years of marriage. But the one is like, when you see him, you're like, And you're just like, right? You see what you're like, oh, and you start acting all funny. You start acting all crazy, right? Because that's you have met the one. You know, that one perfect person that when you smell his cologne, the little hairs in the back of your neck, they just kind of curl up. You're like, oh. He's all stinky. He just got out of work. But you're like, oh my gosh, it smells so good. You're like, that's the one, you know. That one that when you just sit, you see him, your eyes light up. Or when you talk to your friends about it, you're like, oh my gosh, he's like the most perfect guy. You're going to meet him. Just wait till you meet him. And then you go through Facebook to find the right picture. Because you don't want to show him where he looks ugly, right? You don't want to. Does that happen? Does that happen to you guys? So when you want to show him the one, you want to go to like, okay, no, not this one. Okay, you know the dude's ugly. You know he's ugly. You're just trying to find the best picture. Oh, look at him. Hey, but that's the back of his head. Yeah, you can't really see him, but yeah, he's really nice. He's really nice. So that's the one. You know, but and the guys, right, when they find the one, she's like, oh my gosh, she's so adorable, she's so cute. You know, she's got a job, and man, dude, you gotta see her, the way she worships, when she lifts her hands, like, oh, she's like an angel. And when she sings, like she's almost like just angels singing around me. That's the one. But that's the myth, right? It's not about finding the one. I hope that after today, you're able to say, man, I found the two. Say with me, the two. She shouldn't be your one, or he shouldn't be your one. The other person that you find to be with the rest of your life should be say with me, the two. Why would you be so excited about meeting the two? Because God, listen to this, because God is your one and your spouse will be your two. Even Jesus said, you know, this very thing when he was asked about the most important command. He said, above everything else, make God your one. In other words, he said in the scripture, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your strength. God will always be first in your life. If God is not first in your marriage, if God is not first in your life, and if God is not first in the other person's life, you have no business starting anything. Because then the foundation won't be there. So you got to come together and be like, hey man, this is going to be our one. Right? You're my two, but our one will always be God. The Lord said, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor. God first, people second. This should be the top priority. To really have a marriage that honors God, God will always have to be first in your life. You want to please God before you please the people. You want to make sure that you honor God before you honor anything else. You want to make sure that God is a priority in your life. Because if you're not honoring God, what makes you think that you're going to honor your spouse? That happens. If you're not honoring God with the way you do things, by you putting Him first in your life, it's going to be very hard to honor your spouse. The worst mistakes we made was when we put God to the side and we were selfish. Is that right, my love? And we were selfish. She won't let me lie. It was about us. Us. Put God to the side. That's when we struggle. You know, so honoring God should be the first priority. Now, raise your hand real quick if you are not married. Raise your hand real quick. You're not married. But single, not with the boyfriend or girlfriend. Single, I'm sorry. Yeah. Single. All right. So lift your hand. Look around. I'm giving you an opportunity right here to see what's available. This has nothing to do with the service. I'm just trying to hook y'all up. Now, all jokes aside, this is for you. This little part of the sermon is for you. I want you to write this down. Go to the next slide real quick. I want you to write this down. I'll seek the one while preparing for my two. Say with me, I'll seek the one while preparing for my two. True story. There was a young girl who went off to college, and she was living just a wild life. Wild life. Crazy life. she wasn't listening to the mom or anything. Mom always she grew up in church, but she just wanted to live a wild life. And the mom's like, hey, listen, you got to put God first in your life. You got to put God first in your life. You're walking away from God. It's not that you lost your salvation or anything. It's just walking away from God. You're not living in your purpose, right? And this girl was always talking to her mom about, oh my gosh, I wish one day I'll find my one, right? And so one day there's a party, and she gets introduced to this great guy. The guy was in Bible college. He was preparing himself, right, to go and be a minister. And the guy was just like one of the top leaders in his church, high capacity leader. So she was like, oh my God, this is the guy, right? He loves God, and he's a leader in his church, and he's very generous, and he's preparing himself, and he's almost has his degree. He was going to be, he was getting his degree in theology, and he's going to serve the Lord, and this is kind of like the guy that my mom wanted me to marry, and, but she was living a wild life. So she calls home. She's like, Mom, guess what? Mom's like, what? She's like, I think I found the one. What do you mean? Well, Mom, this is the guy that he's studying theology, and he loves the Lord, and he's a high capacity leader. He's very generous. This guy has it all together, blah, 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 blah. And he said, honey, I doubt that a guy like that, she said it with the very tenderly voice and loving nature of a mother, but with a lot of truth. She says, I doubt that a guy like that is looking for a girl like you. Oh my gosh, when I read that story, I was like, oh. It was a low blow by the mom. But think about it. Think about it for a second. A guy like that might not be looking for a girl like you. You have to see the one while you're preparing for your what? For your two. That's the way it is. Become the person that you're looking for. Become the person that you're looking for. Right? If you're in the waiting list of God, if you're, hey man, God, and you're praying about, Lord, send me someone. I want to meet someone that I can spend the rest of my life with, someone that I can make a family with, someone that we can serve you with, right? You got to start seeking the one. You got to start honoring the one. You got to start preparing yourself and becoming the person that you're looking for. Does that make sense? You got to start preparing yourself to be the person that you are looking for. In other words, I'm going to seek the one. I'm going to live for God. I'm going to give my life to God. I'm going to be devoted to Him. I'm going to prepare myself so that when I meet the two, you'll say, that's the guy. That's the guy or that's the girl I was looking for. Single people, lose yourself in God. Lose yourself in God. So that whoever's looking for you will have to go to God to find you. Ooh, somebody got to pay me for that one. So that they have to look God and say, hey man, I feel in my spirit that this is it. Lose yourself in God. So that when you find that person, or that person finds you, right, they have to go before God to find you. And for those who are married, this is your vow. So the vow for the single people is, hey, seek the one while preparing for your two. For those who are married, this is for you. I promise God will be my first priority, and my spouse will be my what? My second. I promise God will be my first priority, and my spouse will be my second. Genesis 2, verse 24 says, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. The word leaves, it's in the Hebrew azab. Azab. Which means to let loose, which means to let go, to relinquish. So in other words, when you leave mama and daddy, they were your priority, right? God will always be your first, but then mama and daddy were your priority, because you always have to honor your parents. You have to always honor your mom, your dad, right? You will listen to them, you will obey to them, you are under their authority. But now, when you find the two, that's your priority. Your family is not your priority. Now, the two is your what? Your priority. The two is now your priority. So when you meet the one, when you go after the one, right? Something happens when you're always looking for the one. If you idolize, later you will demonize. What does that mean? When you're like, oh man, I want to meet the one. When you idolize, later you would demonize. Let's say you find your boyfriend and you're thinking he is everything to you. Right? Oh my gosh, Pastor, this guy, he's so cute. He's right, he's so chill, he's very laid back, he's da-da-da. But then, when you get married, Pastor, this guy's a lazy bum, he doesn't want to do anything. I thought you like him chill and laid back. First you idolize, and then you what? You demonize. Pastor, my girl, bro, I got no problem with my girl. Look, she's very organized. She's got bro, you walk in her car, she's got everything in place, dude. This is exactly what I needed. 2 years into marriage, Pastor, this girl's crazy. She's crazy. You're gonna walk into her home. I can't even take off my shoes off when I walk into the house. Pastor, I don't know what to do. She's obnoxious. She's crazy, man. She's bipolar. I don't know what's going on with her. If you idolize the one, right? If you idolize that person, later on you're gonna demonize that person. Because life happens. Life happens. Before you got married, you were dating and you were going to the movies and then you were going to the restaurant and you were going to walk at the park and this and that. But then kids come and what happens? You ain't got time for nothing. Especially when you buy a dog too. We bought a dog. I'm like, what was I thinking getting this dog? I already had 3 kids. I couldn't handle 3 kids. Now I got a dog. This dog, it consumes my life. Now I'm taking time for my wife because now I got to be walking the dog. Instead of walking with my wife, I'm walking around the apartment. Instead of walking with my wife, I'm like, no. Or instead of my wife walking me, right? So you idolize and then you demonize. Life happens. Life happens. The problem is that when we are looking for the one and we idolize our spouse, we want them to meet needs that only God can meet. He's not making me happy. Oh, I thought your joy coming from the Lord. Now, once you're in marriage, you're marriage. Once you're in it, you're in it. But a lot of the times, we want our spouse to meet certain needs that only God can meet. Think about that for a second. What have you been asking from your spouse that only God is the one that can bring healing? Well, I thought that when I married him, he was going to bring healing to my life. Right? I thought that when I married Eva, right, I was going to feel very accepted because I was always rejected. And then sometimes she didn't accept me. Dang. Because your value doesn't come from your wife. Your value comes from who you are in God. If God was my one, then I would be okay. Right? Obviously, I want to be accepted by my wife. Don't get me wrong. I want to be accepted. I want to be loved, and I want her to take care of me and take my shoes off when I get home. No, I want to be accepted. But your value comes from God. God gives you your joy. God gives you your strength. So when you make the one, and your spouse, your 2, you're not going to demand things from your spouse that only God can give you. So make sure, right, that we are trusting God for whatever He can give in our spouses for what they are designed to do for us. Now, if I can be really, 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 really honest with you this morning, it was when my priorities were all out of order that Eva and I struggled with our marriage. We've been married for 10 years. But our worst, I was very selfish. And I had my priorities all screwed up. And this is how it goes. So we were moving from Indiana to Chicago. Right? We were moving from Indiana to Chicago. And she was about 8 months and 2 weeks pregnant. She was, in her mind, she's thinking I was 33 weeks. Right? I'm thinking in terms of months and weeks. So it was like 8 months and 2 weeks. And she was about to pop. We had a 10-month baby. 10-month baby. America was 10 months old. Everybody's like, how did that happen? She's pregnant. Wait, there's something's not adding up here. They're Irish twins. Wait, what is Irish twins? So they're not even a year apart. So she was very little. We arrived, with the U-Haul full of stuff in Chicago. moving to our house. And then the next day, I was flying over on a ministry trip. She was like, don't go. It's like, girl, you're crazy. This is more important to me. She had no food, no nothing. But to me, ministry was more important than my wife. I wanted to build a successful ministry at the cost of my marriage and at the cost of my family. Because it's good, right? I'm saving lives. Here I come, Haiti. You're struggling and you need me. So I took off. My priorities were all over the place. I didn't know how inconsiderate I was. You cannot build a successful business. You cannot build a successful life. You cannot build a successful ministry at the cost of your marriage. It almost cost us everything. It was my fault. My priorities were all over the place. I didn't have them straight. I had God, right? I had God. I had ministry. I had friends. And then I had my wife. That's how it was. Just keeping it real with you. That's how it was. I had time for everybody. I had time for everybody except for my family. I had time for everyone except for my wife. And she would ask me, Danny, like, what's going on? I'm like, hey, you don't need anything in the house. That's enough. That's the kind of attitude I had. I was very selfish. I was all messed up. And that's when we started having issues. You know? And it wasn't the ministry was bad. The ministry is good. But it was out of order. So, often it's not something that is bad that ruins your marriage. Sometimes it's something good that is not in the right priority. Does that make sense? A lot of times we think it's the bad stuff. Hey, there was nothing wrong with ministry. Sometimes it's the good stuff that are out of order that will mess up your marriage. You're thinking you got it all together. You're thinking everything is going to be fine. You're thinking it's good. Even if my wife just gets a little time, right? Even if my family just gets a little time. No. First is God, then is your spouse. Your priorities need to be in place. God is my one. My spouse will always be mine too. And we always have to live according to these priorities if we really want to honor God. Everybody say with me, kids. Kids don't come before your spouse. That's a big struggle for me. But kids don't come before your spouse. Yeah, we should take time for the kids, right? But your marriage is your priority, not the kids. Your spouse is your priority, not the kids. Our marriage relationship should not be based around what we do with the kids. Because one day the kids will leave the house. Can somebody say amen to that? Anybody waiting for that day? Anybody waiting for that day? One day they will leave the house. By the time they're 18, unless they're millennials, maybe 30, 35. Unless they're millennials. But you shouldn't put your kids before your spouse. You shouldn't. Your phone, your wife will break it. When I go out to eat with my wife, which we do often, and I always put the phone to the side, but I have this mania, this habit, right? That I put it down and I'm like, ah, baby, sorry. So I was telling that, and then she's just like, so there's a lot of things that we don't think they're really damaging our priorities, but they are. But one of those things that often happens is the children. Right? Sometimes we base all of our life around our children, and one day they're going to take off. And when they take off, you're going to look at your husband of 30 years, and you're going to be like, who are you? I don't know you. There's no intimacy, right? You don't know nothing about each other. Then you end up getting divorced. I mentioned a while back that 50 and older right now, it's the highest percentage or rate of divorced people that are 50 and older because the empty nesters. Children are leaving the home, and now they're like, we don't even know each other. We don't even want to be with each other. You end up realizing that all you were doing was just being together for the children. That's not healthy. When you do everything around the kids, it is not healthy. Your wife should always be your first priority. And here's one big thought that you can take with you today. Always, always protect your priorities. If you're going to get married in the future, embrace this. God will always be your number one. Your spouse will always be your number two. If you're already married and you're struggling, I can almost guarantee that you're not putting God first and your spouse second. Some priorities are out of place. You want your marriage to grow? Seek God together. Do devotionals together. Worship together. Serve together. You see how everything changes. Trust me. This is how Ebeth and I were able to fix our marriage. It was by fixing our priorities. We paid a lot of money to counseling. We were done. We paid a lot of money. A lot of money. Hours. We went through so much. But it was when we started fixing our priorities. And I was the one doing most of the damage. I was doing most of the damage. I would take responsibility for that. But it was when we started doing these things and we started fixing our priorities, seeking God together, putting God in the right place. That's when our marriage changed. That's when our family changed. We're not a perfect marriage. We're not a perfect marriage. But it's a whole lot better. Our only fights right now are about, hey, go give me tacos. I'm like, it's too late. She's like, I don't care. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Go give me tacos. If I want tacos, you done messed up a lot of your life. Go give me tacos. We don't have the perfect marriage. But it's better. Saturday, Freda was pretty mad at me. Because we went to the store. Freda always goes with me to the store. She always wants me to buy her stuff. And she always gets ready. And so we went to the store. And for no reason, Saturday morning, I bought my wife some flowers. We were just going. They were not expensive. They were like $8 at the fresh market. You're like, oh, you're so cheap. But they were pretty. So Freda grabbed the candy. I said, grab a candy for your sister and grab the candy for your brother. Right? And then I got some flowers. And Freda's like, why did mommy give flowers and we don't? I said, honey, because your mama is something else. And you're not. And I said, your mama, baby, I want you to know that it's more important to me than anything. She's like, but it's not Valentine's yet, and it's not your anniversary yet. I said, it doesn't have to be a special day for a special woman. Shh. So, allow her. Because I have now come to the conclusion and I understand that one of the best ways that I can bless my children is by strengthening my marriage. You should think about that. One of the best ways that you can bless your children is by strengthening your marriage. Here's what you need to remember. Children are a temporary assignment. Your marriage is the day to you guys part. Children are only a temporary assignment. They're going to leave your house and they're going to become somebody else's assignment when they get married. But your spouse is until the day you die. This is why marriage has to be a priority above your children. I was used to taking Ebeth and the kids to the movies, and then we will all go to the restaurant, and then we will all go to the park, and da 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 da. Now it's the opposite. Now, put the kids in school, I'll be like, hey baby, you want to go to the $5 movies or what? Just me and you. Yeah, I ain't got money for Wednesdays or Thursdays or Fridays. That's too expensive. $5 and that's it. And then you get free popcorn, man. You get free popcorn and $2 hot dogs. We save money. We don't have a lot of money, but we know how to make it. The only thing she hates about those days is that I go in my PJs. Because we go at 10 o'clock in the morning. Tuesday was my day off. But then we would go out for breakfast and things like that. Just her and I. Before it was the kids, and I wasn't giving her time. I wasn't. But now, that was a game changer, fixing our priorities. If you want your children to succeed in their marriage, a successful marriage, show them what a godly marriage or a God-honoring marriage looks like. Amen? I want to bring my wife up real quick. I got some help. Put your hands together for her, man. Come on. Here are some questions that were done and that she's going to answer. Now, she loves to keep it real, and I love when she does. But here's some questions. Question number 1, right? How does making God a priority impacted your marriage?
So, like Danny said, we had it wrong for a lot of years, but we're honest, we're all human, right? And so we can't function correctly in our marriage if God is not the priority. And so I think the Holy Spirit is very essential for us to be good spouses. We need to seek Him and allow Him to help us to be a good spouse. If I wouldn't have my prayer time with God, I would be a horrible wife, because I would probably snap at Danny like crazy. But having God as my priority allows me to love Him, even though I see mistakes, or to extend grace even when He does something that I don't like or I don't agree with something. It allows me even to shut my mouth sometimes when I want to speak out of anger. And it allows me to, even when I have to address something with Him, to do it with love and wisdom, and not use probably harsh words or things that would hurt Him. So I think it's very important to make sure that we have God as a priority, at least my life.
Question number 2, what do you do to keep God a top priority?
So, for many years, I grew up in church, and so I thought, like, well, I do all this stuff in church. I'm always in church. I do the worship team, and I'm learning the songs for Sunday, or this and that, and I thought that God was my priority because of that. But it's almost relatable to like when you're married. Sometimes we're married and we think, well, I'm doing this for my husband or my spouse. I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm doing laundry, or I'm providing for the family. And so we think that they're a priority, but we've never really had that time of intimacy, and not sexually, but like emotionally with each other. And so that's not healthy. And so I related a lot to that even us sometimes as Christians, I would do that a lot. I would think, well, God's my priority because I'm doing all this stuff for Him. But I never had intimacy with Him. I never had the time to have that one-on-one time with Him. And so I needed to do that. And so the way that I do that now is that I make sure that, I have my prayer time. I have my alone time with God, where I do my devotional, where I love journaling. So I journal a lot about what He's speaking to me, what He's saying to me, and that allows me to align my heart for the rest of the day and to be a good wife.
Amen. Question number 3, how do you and I keep God as our priority together?
Having time with God is not only important individually, but it's very important to have it together. And this is something that we've been working on a lot, because we were not used to it. We've been married for 10 years, and we've been doing it for the past 2 years. But before that, like 7-8 years, we didn't do that. We would have it individually, but we never did it together. And so it makes a huge difference when you come together and you pray, or you do a devotional together. I sometimes, when he was working at Sprint, and then if we didn't have time to pray or something, like I would send him like text messages and just say, hey, today I prayed that God gives you strength, I pray, etc., etc., etc. We make sure, like, even if God is speaking to us in a certain way, or that we share with each other, if there was like a verse that we read that impacted us, we make sure that we share with each other. But we come together and do devotionals a lot, and that has really strengthened our marriage.
And that's almost daily. That's daily. We do through the Bible app. There's a lot of devotionals there. Just many different devotionals. We'll do research. We do a lot of books together. The last 2 years have been a game changer for our marriage, for our family. So we highly encourage that to keep it together, right? That's make that a priority. If you don't make it a priority, in the beginning she used to get mad because I was like, baby, let me schedule this. Let me schedule my time with you in the morning. But I'm your spouse. Da, da, da. But we learned that if it's not in your calendar, it's not important to you. So put it there. 9 o'clock in the morning. Time with my honey bunches of oats. Right? We're going to do a devotional. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's a game changer. Question number 4. How do you love your kids but not neglect your prince?
If you guys know, then you know that all my kids are daddy's kids. They told me when I was pregnant with Moso, with our boy, that like, oh, it's gonna change. He'll be yours. Like, he's gonna be a mama's boy, and they were wrong. They're all daddy's kids, and Bo, our dog included. They love their dad, and so that's for me. That was like a challenge in the beginning. So since the girls were little, he started scheduling what he would call, like, every Friday is Viernes de Princesas. And so he would take the girls out, and once Mozo was born, then we changed it obviously to Friday Fun Day. But that's their time with their dad because they need their dad, they love their dad. And so that's the time where they plan something, they'll go to the store, they'll do something at home, or he'll take them out, and that's their alone time. I don't mess with that. I know that that's their day, and that's when they have them. And then we have our date nights, which we try to be very intentional about scheduling those as much as often. Now that the kids are in school, it's a lot easier, to do it like during the day. But when the kids were little, it was we really had to be intentional about making sure that we had that time. One thing is like sometimes we think about like dates and we're like, well, we need to go out or something. But even at your house, like there's times when we're in the summer, we used to do this a lot. We would turn on a bonfire and we would go outside and just hang out. And then we told you can't come outside, you have to stay inside. The kids will have to stay inside. And that was our time. We would just hang out and talk, or even in our bedroom. We'll be in our bedroom. It's like we're having alone time, mommy and daddy. Like we lock the door, and sometimes they'll come and they'll be knocking like crazy. And it'll be, if you knock one more time, you're gonna be grounded, because they need to know that this time is important to you and that it's a priority. When somebody comes and you have, like, let's say you have an important meeting with somebody and the kids keep interrupting, I'm sure you're gonna be emphasize on them that that's not okay. And so sometimes we don't do that with our marriage, like, oh, well, the kids are bothering or the kids are doing, we have to. No, you gotta make that a priority, and so that they can get used to that your time together is important, and that if they don't understand that, there will be consequences. And so I think we need to, sometimes we give too much leeway to the kids and they're like, well, no, they need me in this. No. You gotta make your time a priority. So.
Amen. Well, I want to publicly say how honored I am to be your husband. I am very, very honored. You are the greatest blessing I have. You are the greatest blessing I have. I'm deeply in love with you. The way you love me has impacted me in so many ways. And as I shared earlier today, the eternal destiny of so many people has been impacted by the way you love me. So I just want to honor you publicly and tell you that I love you with all my heart, and I will do my best to always keep you as my priority. Right? Come on, put your hands together. But you got to be willing to put the work in. I'm with this. You got to be willing to put the work in. I want to talk to the man real quick. Guys, we've got to take responsibility to protect our priorities. We are the protectors. We are the providers. We are the protectors. We are the pastors. Right? We provide for the home. We hustle. Whatever we need to do, we hustle. We protect. But we also pastor and we lead the home spiritually. But I want you guys to really protect the priorities. I bet you $1 million that if somebody will walk into your house to try to kidnap one of your kids, you as guys were like, man, I'm willing to die for my friends. I'm willing to die for my kids. Well, God wants you to live a godly life for your family. It's easy to die. It's harder to live a godly life for your family and for your friends, for your kids, for your spouse. So you got to protect your priorities. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 25 says, husband, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. You got to protect your priorities at all costs. We are people of God. My wife and I, we go to church together. We serve together. We pray together. We worship together. We told you, we mismanaged 8 years of our marriage. Right? Finally, we're like, okay, man, we got to take a break here. We finally hit our sweet spot. But it didn't happen by chance. It happened by all the work that we were willing to put in. It wasn't easy. Getting up and doing things and scheduling things, But we said, if it's our priority, we got to work at it. We got to invest in it. Right? So, hey, man, be creative, guys. Be creative. Be determined. Put your priorities in place. Love God. Love your wife. Love your children. And I'll end with this quote. If you're lazy, you'll make an excuse. If you're lazy, you will make an excuse. But if you love, you'll make a way. If you love, you will make a way. He will make a way. Put your priorities in place. Don't allow no one, anybody, to interrupt, right? Or to put your priorities out of place. God, spouse, children, everything else. Amen? When we were able to do that, we were able to fix so many things. And we still continue to work on so many things in our lives. But we're heading in the right direction, putting in the work that we need to put.